Good morning, class. I hope you are staying safe and warm. And this is my third attempt at this. The first time I went through the whole thing and it didn't record, so be patient with me. I'm a dinosaur. All right, so if you would turn to page 457 in your book, we've already done this, or you're supposed to have already done this, but I'm just going to hit a few highlights and go over the answers and things to emphasize some things. All right, so at the bottom of 457, if you haven't read the rules, please do that. But the bottom one says, do not capitalize the seasons of the year, such as summer, fall, winter, and spring. And we like to do this because our favorite season is summer, but we don't capitalize them unless they're part of a title. For example, Farmington's Fall Festival of 2021 was canceled. And obviously it hasn't happened yet, but anyway, go down that list. They all make sense. The main thing is if it's a specific street, you capitalize it. A specific doctor, a specific institution, you capitalize all those. If they're general institutions, general doctors, you don't capitalize those. I do want to take you down and point out the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 6th bullet. And it says capitalize specific course and title, program titles. If a course is followed by a number, like all college courses are, most high school courses are not, so they are not capitalized. But it's so hard because physics, I want to capitalize physics, it's so hard, and chemistry. But unless they're followed by a Roman numeral like chemistry 1 or physics 2, or by just 201 or economics, psychology 454, you don't capitalize them. So they can be followed, if they're followed by a number, Roman numeral, or regular number, or a letter, like call it algebra A and algebra B. You capitalize them, otherwise you don't. The middle thing there, topics in electrical engineering, that is a program title, so that is capitalized. But notice your small words still are not capitalized in that title, like ins, ands, ons, and things like that. And the next, underneath that bullet, it says do not capitalize if you refer to a course, but do not mention the course title, an economic course, an engineering program, and so on. The next rule is rather vague. Capitalize major words and titles of literary or artistic works. You always capitalize the first and last word of a title. Always, always, always. And then it gets main words or major words. Well, what in the world's a major word? Basically, it's easier to say what isn't a major word. Your articles, a, ands, and thes are not major words. Conjunctions are not major words, so they're not capitalized in a title unless they're the first or the last word. Also, prepositions with 4 letters or fewer, in, of, on, to, and that kind of thing, they're not capitalized. Historical events. Okay, go down to the bottom hint in the gray box. And it says brand names for hardware, software, and devices often use informal capitalization rules. iPhone, MS, Word for Microsoft Word, and so on. When in doubt, check the manufacturer's website for the exact spelling. And here are some examples. iPad, YouTube, QuickBooks. So they kind of make their own capitalization rules, and you follow whatever that manufacturer has decided to do. There are a couple of rules not in your book that I need you to write down. So write down mom and dad. When do we capitalize mom and when do we not capitalize mom? You capitalize mom if it's taking the place of an actual name in the sentence. For example, I wonder if mom is going to the store this afternoon. I wonder if Susan is going to the store this afternoon. It makes perfect sense, so you would capitalize mom in that instance. It's taking the place of an actual name. If you would say, I wonder if my dad is going to work tomorrow. I wonder if my Paul is going to work tomorrow. Well, that doesn't make any sense, so you don't capitalize Paul there, or our dad there. And it's the same rule with grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, that kind of thing. And even if you would call someone, hey, Bud, would you open your book? Bud there is taking someone's name, the place of someone's name, so you would capitalize Bud in that instance. Another rule that your book does not go over is when to capitalize north and south and other east and west. So you don't capitalize north, south, east, or west when they're giving directions, like if they're the point on a compass. For example, St. Louis is north of here. Cape Girardeau is south of here. I would not capitalize north and south in those instances. But if they are representing a section of the country, you would capitalize them. For example, the South is known for its fried chicken. There, the South is representing a section of states, a section of the country, so you would capitalize it. Or you might say, in the West, there are the most beautiful sunsets. In the West, that section of the country, so you would capitalize it there. And those things you would need to write down because they're going to be on a quiz that you're going to have a little bit later about capitalization. So practice one you've already done, and I'm going to go over the answers. If you haven't done it, press pause right now and go over and do this section. But the answers are, in number 1, the second line, Google, should be capitalized. In the third line, mechanics should be capitalized. And at the end of that line, France should be capitalized. In the fourth line, development should be capitalized. Skip on down to the sixth line, the first word, one, should be capitalized. American should be capitalized. Canaan Street should be capitalized, as should Pulse. In the next line that starts with New York, at the end of the line, the first word inside the quotation is capitalized. It happens to be I in this case, which we would capitalize anyway. And that's all for number 1. In number 2, the first line, capitalize November. In the second line, capitalize Tata Motors. In the third line, capitalize pollution. And in the final line, capitalize Hawaii. Now, you were supposed to go over other punctuation marks. I'm going to briefly reveal these rules too about the colon. Use a colon to introduce a quotation with a complete sentence. The writer Oscar Wilde stated his opinion, colon, and you have this quotation that is a complete sentence. That is not always the rule, but that is one of the times to use a colon. You can also say he stated his opinion, which is, you could introduce it with words or you could introduce it with a colon. The next bullet, introduce a series or a list after a complete sentence. So, in recent years, these novelists won Pulitzer Prizes for writing fiction, colon. Anthony Doerr, Donna Tartt, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The next rule, use a colon after the expression the following. So please do the following, colon, read, review, and respond. So if I were going to say, my husband's going to the store to get bread, eggs, and milk, I don't use a colon. But if I'm introducing that list using words such as, my husband is going to get the following items at the store, colon, bread, eggs, and milk. So if it's in the flow of the sentence, like if it's preceded by a verb, don't use a colon, but use a colon to say, I'm going to list the following students, colon, dot, dot, dot. The next bullet, the second bullet from the bottom, use a colon to introduce an explanation or an example. In 1929, investors witnessed a tragedy, colon, the stock market. There are other ways you could introduce the words the stock market crash, but we're learning about the colon now, so you would use a colon. And then the last bullet, to use a colon to separate the hour and minutes, an expression of time. The meeting will begin at 11:45. There are 2 more times to use a colon that your book doesn't include that I wish you would add. When you're referring to the Bible, separate the chapter and the verse with a title, with a colon. For example, my favorite verse is John 3:16. You also use a colon to separate a title from a subtitle. For example, I might have My Life, colon, a comedy of errors. Or the Harry Potters don't use colons, but they could. Harry Potter's, colon, the Prisoner of Azkaban, and so on. So hyphens, use a hyphen when you write the complete words for numbers between 21 and 99, like 20-6. When you use a single compound adjective before a noun, the compound adjective must express a single thought. And please go over these with me. The new employers must work under high pressure. It's just fine. But if I would rearrange the words, the new employee has a high pressure job. High pressure becomes one adjective. It's called a compound adjective. You cannot say a high job or a pressure job. It's a high pressure job. So you need the hyphen there. No hyphen, our boss is 30 years old. Fine. But if you would say we have a 30-year-old boss, 30-year-old becomes one adjective there. You can't say 30 boss, year boss, or old boss. It's a 30-year-old. So you need your hyphens there. Boss. And then the last rule, if the adjectives before a noun function independently, do not add hyphens. And for example, they renovated an old red barn. You can say old barn, red barn, and it makes sense. So those adjectives function independently. They don't form one adjective. So if you would look at the hint, some compound adjectives never take a hyphen, even when they appear before a noun. World Wide Web, high school senior, real estate agent, and I don't know why these exceptions exist. They just do. So you're already supposed to have practice 2 finished. If you haven't, press pause and finish them, because I'm going to go over the answers right now. All right, in number 1, in the first line, high-tech innovations. Also in the first line, 20-first century. The second line is fine. The third line, long-range project. And in the second to last line, this plan has 2 steps, building the cars, blah, blah, blah. In number 2, Elon Musk has had many other successful businesses, because we're introducing that list. And then he has also a futuristic idea for replacing high-speed rail. And that's all there is in number 2. So over to number 3. In the second line, it's a long anticipated model car. And in the third line, the car has the following features, because we're introducing a list, blah, blah, blah. You were supposed to read about ellipses marks. Ellipses marks are the 3 dots, and they replace words that you don't need to emphasize your point. And so it will shorten a selection. And I didn't have you do it, I don't believe, but I want you to look at practice 3. If you haven't read about ellipses marks, do that. And I want you to look at practice 3, and I want you to do number 1 and 2. Press pause, because I'm going to go over the answers right now. So in practice 3, again, you leave out words that are unimportant to what you're trying to get across. So you could have put, normal thoughts of my future, ... were entirely beyond me. So you leave out those words and you still have a complete thought, but you leave out those words that are just taking up space. In number 2, to top it off, our kids are imbued with victimology, which today has become the American way of blame, ... when a boy in trouble sees himself as a victim, and then you finish it. So hopefully, if you don't have the exact same thing, that's fine, but hopefully you got close to that. So if you would now press pause, and I want you to do reflect on it, and I'm going to go over the answers. And we're on page 462, so press pause. All right, in number 1, hopefully you just looked back and listed 5 things. Maybe you didn't even have to look back. Number 2, you need a hyphen. He is a 20-5-year-old man. 25-year-old, that becomes one adjective with all those hyphens. And then in number 2, he has a high-pressure job. Number 3, you should have capitalized Mexican, American, and if you didn't put a hyphen there, or if there's not a hyphen there, put that in the first line. The second line, you should capitalize Brooklyn. And the second to last line, famous folk singers, Joan Baez and Mimi Farina. So I want you to do the final review for a grade, and I'm going to help you a little bit. Number 1 has 6 errors. There are 2 capitalization errors. You need 3 hyphens, and you need 1 colon. Number 2 has 2 errors. They are both capitalization. Number 3 has 7 errors. There are 4 words that need to be capitalized, 1 word that needs to be lowercase. You need to add 2 colons. And this is for a grade, so please make sure that you work on that diligently. So now turn back to page 433, commas, and we're going to go over some comma work. What is a comma? Define a comma and what it does. A comma is a punctuation mark that helps keep distinct ideas separate. There are many ways to use a comma. In this chapter, you will learn some helpful rules about comma usage. Notice how comma placement changes the meaning of the following sentences. So, decide what animal is having a nap. In the first example, the dog bites, comma, the cat runs, comma, and then she has a nap. the cat is taking the nap. In number 2, the dog bites the cat, comma, runs, comma, and then she has a nap. So in this one, the dog is taking the nap. So just that one comma placement changes the complete sentence, the meaning of the sentence. So please don't take this lightly. All right, commas in a series. It has become very common in the journalistic world and in the business world to not do this as the English teachers or English discipline would have them do. It says use a comma in a series. Use a comma to separate items in a series of 3 or more. Remember to put a comma before the final conjunction. You can also look at it as put a comma after every item in the list except the last one. So they have unit 1, comma, unit 2, comma, there's your conjunction, so that's your last comma. You stop at the conjunction. Houston, comma, Dallas, comma, and Austin have vibrant design industries. The job search requires courage, comma, perseverance, comma, and energy. You can network, comma, contact employers directly, comma, or use a placement service. So your list can be words, it can be series of words, and so on. So if you will look at the hint in the punctuating a series gray box, in a series of 3 or more items, do not place a comma after the last item in the list. Her poise, comma, simplicity, comma, and kindness impressed us. So however you want to look at it, as stop, your last comma goes before the conjunction, or your comma after every item except the last one. Either way, it's going to be the same outcome. Do not use commas to separate items if each item is joined with and or. Writers will sometimes use this method to put emphasis on their list or to just maybe wake the reader up a little bit. It is not possible to study and listen to music and have a conversation at the same time. So and or are the only conjunctions that you can do this method with. It's not used often, but again, sometimes it is. So I want you to push, after I go over the rules, we're going to do practice 1, and you're going to push stop, and I'm going to go over the answers with you. But let's look at number 1 first. It says underline series of items in the next selection. You don't have to underline anything. I don't care. Just add the 16 missing commas. So I will tell you, in number 1 there are 4, in number 2 there are 7, and in number 3 there are 4 missing commas. So the example says frequent business travelers can experience physical fatigue, comma, marital strain, comma, and mental stress. A comma after every item in the series except the last one, or you can stop at your conjunction. So press pause and do practice 1. Okay, the answers for practice 1. In number 1, the second line, you should have Houston, comma, Orlando, comma, and Chicago. In line 4, toward the end, such as company executive, comma, travel agents, comma, and salesmen. In number 2, the second line, airport security, comma, the uncomfortable seats, comma, and the usual flight delays. At the end of that line, he dreads sitting next to a crying baby, comma, an overly amorous couple, comma, or a sick passenger. The next line, they were anxious about bed bugs, comma, noisy guests, comma, and uncomfortable beds. And then in that same line, respondents worried about falling behind in their work, comma, attending boring presentations, comma, and being away from their families. In number 3, you don't have any commas until the 4th line. Through teleconferencing, comma, video chats, comma, or live internet radio. And then the second to the last line, such as their workstation, comma, home station, comma, or any other room. All right, so I hope you did well on that. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email. The next part, commas after introductory words and phrases, is the last thing we're going to do today. And it says use a comma after an introductory word or phrase. The introductory word could be an interjection such as yes, no, or well. It could be an adverb such as usually or generally, or it could be a transitional word such as however or therefore. For example, yes, comma, I will help you complete the order. Frankly, comma, you should consider your customer service promise. However, comma, the job includes a lot of overtime. Yes, comma, we got a lot of snow. No, comma, we don't shovel our walks. Things like that. However, comma, my husband's going to the store anyway. Those are just some more examples. You also use a comma to set off introductory phrases of 2 or more words. The phrase could be a transitional expression such as of course or on the contrary, or it could be a prepositional phrase such as on a warm summer evening, comma, yada yada yada. The introductory phrase could also be a modifier such as running out of fuel, comma, we stopped for gas, or born in France, comma, Pedro fell out of place. The examples in the book, on the other hand, comma, his career was not going well. In the middle of the meeting, comma, I received a phone call. Speaking to the crowd, comma, the manager explained the stock's performance. So I want you to do practice 2. Again, it says underline each introductory word or phrase. You don't have to do that. Just add the 10 missing commas. So press pause, do practice 2, and I'm going to go over the answers. So press pause. All right, in practice 2, number 1, you should have for the first time, comma, over a third of American adults have a college degree. Furthermore, comma, that number continues to grow steadily. For example, comma, 68% of high school graduates attended high school in 2011. In number 2, of course, comma, the ability to earn a high salary, blah, blah, blah. Still, comma, many students want to know which degrees have the highest earning potential. According to a study of over 1,000 universities, comma, the 10 best paying college degrees are related to engineering. In number 3, in fact, comma, almost all of the highest paid university graduates come from STEM programs. As a result, comma, many students are counseled to enter programs in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. However, comma, liberal arts programs also have their benefits. Working in a volatile job market, comma, the critical thinking and problem-solving skills obtained in a liberal arts program are valuable. So that is all we're going to do today, and I hope to see you in person Thursday, and I hope you watch this video and get the work done. Stay safe and stay warm. Bye-bye.